Once upon a time, there was a sweet little girl who lived in a village near a forest. She was loved by everyone who knew her, but most of all by her grandmother, who had a special affection for her. One day, her grandmother gave her a beautiful red velvet cape, and since then, the little girl wore it every day. People began calling her Little Red Riding Hood because of the cape. One morning, her mother asked her to visit her grandmother, who lived deep in the woods, to bring her a basket of food because she was feeling ill. "Remember, Little Red Riding Hood," her mother warned. "Stay on the path and don't talk to strangers. The woods are dangerous." Little Red Riding Hood promised she would be careful and set off on her journey. As she walked through the forest, the sun was shining and the birds were singing. But the path was long. Along the way, she met a sly wolf who was looking for an opportunity to trick her. The wolf, who was very cunning, greeted her with a smile. "Good morning, Little Red Riding Hood," he said in a sweet voice. "Where are you going so early today?" "I'm going to visit my grandmother," Little Red Riding Hood replied. "And I'm bringing her some food because she's feeling unwell." The wolf thought to himself, "What a sweet and innocent girl. What a perfect opportunity to make a meal of her and her grandmother." But he didn't want to frighten her just yet, so he said, "What a kind granddaughter you are. But tell me, why don't you pick some flowers for your grandmother on the way? She would love them." Little Red Riding Hood thought this was a good idea. "I'll pick some flowers for her, and I'm sure she'll be happy," she said. While she was distracted picking flowers, the wolf hurried to her grandmother's house. He knocked on the door and said, "Grandmother, it's me, Little Red Riding Hood." But of course it was the wolf in disguise. The grandmother, who was bedridden, called out, "Come in, my dear," and the wolf quickly entered. Without wasting any time, he jumped out of bed, grabbed the grandmother, and locked her in a cupboard. He then dressed in her clothes and climbed into her bed, pulling the covers up to his chin. Meanwhile, Little Red Riding Hood had picked a large bouquet of flowers and was happily skipping along to her grandmother's house, unaware of the danger that awaited her. She eventually arrived at the cottage and knocked on the door. "Come in, my dear," said the wolf, trying to disguise his voice to sound like the grandmother's. Little Red Riding Hood opened the door and walked in. As she stepped inside, she felt something was a little off. "Grandmother, what big ears you have," she exclaimed. "All the better to hear you with, my dear," the wolf replied, his voice deep and gruff. "And grandmother, what big eyes you have." "All the better to see you with, my dear," the wolf answered, inching closer under the covers. "And grandmother, what big teeth you have," Little Red Riding Hood said, feeling more and more suspicious. "All the better to eat you with, my dear," the wolf roared, leaping out of bed and pouncing on Little Red Riding Hood. Just as the wolf was about to pounce, a nearby hunter who had been passing through the woods heard the commotion and rushed to the house. He kicked down the door and saw the wolf just as he was about to attack Little Red Riding Hood. The hunter took quick action, grabbing his axe and striking the wolf down. The hunter opened the cupboard and freed the grandmother, who had been locked away. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother were both very thankful to the brave hunter for saving them. They decided to make sure they always stayed on the path and never talked to strangers again. From that day on, Little Red Riding Hood learned to listen carefully to warnings and never stray from the safe path again. Moral of the story: Little Red Riding Hood teaches us the importance of being cautious and listening to advice from trusted figures, especially when it comes to avoiding danger and the potential for deception.